Hey everybody, welcome to this mini training. As you all know, I'm Jackie, and today I'm coming on here to talk to you about TDEE, what that is, and how that applies to your training. So yeah, let's get started. So what we're going to go through today is what TDEE is. Then we're going to go why it's important, how it influences tracking and your time with me as your coach, and the benefits of TDEE. So TDEE stands for total daily energy expenditure. So this is your total number of calories that you burn in any given day based on your lifestyle, based on your genetics, based on all kinds of different variations, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So it considers 4 different areas. So first it considers the metabolic rate. Your resting metabolic rate, so RMR. Which you might also see this come up as basal metabolic rate. It's kind of used interchangeably, but both of them are the same thing. The second thing that it considers is the thermic effect of food. The third thing it considers is your exercise activity thermogenesis. And the last thing it considers is NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So I think you guys can probably see why I wanted to do this as a presentation, because there are a lot of acronyms that are being thrown around, and I didn't really think that by just me coming on and talking about it in a video, it was going to come across very clearly. So by giving you a visual, I'm hoping that this is going to be a lot more understandable. So just diving into those 4 different topics that I just touched on. So resting metabolic rate, so AKA basal metabolic rate, which I mentioned before, is the energy you expend when your body is at complete rest. So the minimum level of energy that we need to keep the body alive, which accounts for about 70% of the body's energy for people who are sedentary or lightly active. So resting metabolic rate is literally just how much energy your body needs when it's doing nothing. It's the calories that you need for your body just to function, just to do its job, to move food through your body, to stand, to breathe, to pump blood through your system. That is that's the very, very, very minimum amount of energy that your body uses. So as we can see, if you are a sedentary or lightly active person, this makes up 70% of your TDEE, so your daily energy expenditure. The second thing that is considered is the thermic effect of food. So this is the increase in metabolic rate after the ingestion of a meal, because eating takes work and expends energy. So thermic effect of food, or TEF, accounts for about 10% of TDEE. So with these first 2, you can see that you literally need calories just to function and just to break down the food that you eat. So it's kind of like catch-22 with TEF, because you're ingesting calories, but you also need calories to ingest them and for your body to absorb them in order for you to actually use it and reap the benefits of all the nutrients that you're eating. I apologize for my voice. I am recovering from COVID and my throat is just not back to 100% yet, but here I am. I showed up for you guys. I've been wanting to kind of put some more effort into giving you guys some value as clients. So this is what I'm doing here. So the third thing that is considered in TDEE is exercise activity thermogenesis, so EAT. So this is purposeful exercise. So this is when you actually go to the gym. This is when you're actually taking time out of your day to exercise on purpose. So for people who are sedentary or lightly active, this is about 5% of their TDEE. So when you're sedentary or lightly active, you're obviously not putting a lot of energy into exercise activity. But we'll talk more about this in a little bit too. So the last one is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So we call this NEAT. And this is basically how much you move in a day outside of the the exercise that you do on purpose. So this is like the total number of steps. So when I ask you as your coach how many steps in a day that you get, that's not because I want to know if you're getting more exercise. It's because I want to know what your NEAT is, because we use this for consideration when calculating your TDEE. And it's another consideration for just knowing overall how much stress is on your body and all kinds of other things. So here's a comparison chart. So those 4 things I just talked about, we were referring to sedentary and lightly active people. So from here, you can see that exercise activity thermogenesis takes up about 5% of total TDEE for somebody who is sedentary or lightly active. Whereas if you are moderately to highly active, your EAT can be as high as 15 to 30% of your total TDEE. When you are sedentary or lightly active, your resting metabolic rate is about 70% of your TDEE. But if you're moderately or highly active, it is about 60% or lower of your TDEE. So you're probably wondering why that is. And usually that's because when you are moderately to highly active, so when you are constantly working out your muscles, you're constantly working out your heart and your lungs, those things tend to be more efficient. So it takes less energy for your heart and your lungs to do their job because you are actively exercising them. And when you do that, they can do their job better. And it doesn't take as much energy for those systems to perform, and obviously lowers how much of your TDEE that's going to take up. So the last one was the thermal effect of food, which is about 10% of your total TDEE when you are sedentary or lightly active. But when you're moderately to highly active, it takes up about 10 to 15% of your total TDEE, usually because highly active individuals have higher TDEEs. So obviously the more active you are, the more energy you require. So the more calories you require. And so the more food you require. So because they're eating more food, their body is taking up more energy in the thermal effect of food in order to break it all down. Okay. So why is this important for you to understand? So TDEE is your maintenance calories. So that's exactly what it is. It is how much that you need to support, how much do you need in any given day to support your lifestyle sustainably and maintain your weight. And so if you were to take yourself right now and consider all of your lifestyle factors, so how active you are, how much you weigh, and all kinds of different things, and to see how much energy your body needs right now, that is your current TDEE. And we need that because it's the basis of your goals. So as your coach, I really need your TDEE because that's going to be the basis for how we determine your nutrients in your macros, or however we're going to track. So if your goal is fat loss, we calculate your TDEE and subtract 15 to 25%. If your goal is recomposition, so recomposition just means that you want to build muscle while also losing fat. You might stay the same weight, but you're recompositing your body, so your muscle to your fat mass. So ultimately trying to reduce the fat mass and increasing the muscle mass. And if your goal is to bulk, so strictly gaining muscle, but usually when we gain muscle in a bulk, that also comes with fat gain as well. We try to minimize it because there's certain strategies to bulk so that you don't gain too much fat. But it's the same kind of thing as fat loss, except we're increasing our calories by 10 to 20%. These aren't hard and fast numbers. Like this would probably be if you were in like the complete optimal state of well-being in order before you did a fat loss or a bulk. But yeah, this is the idea. So we take your TDEE is like the basis of what we need to know before we can then move into whatever goals you are looking to achieve. So these are all the factors that influence TDEE, and these are all the things that I consider before we decide to tweak them and how I decide what your macros are going to be, because we consider all of these things. So this is why when you did your application for your one-on-one coaching, if you are a one-on-one coaching client, I asked all kinds of questions because there's all kinds of things that I need to know, because they tell me what your TDEE is going to be and what your state of well-being is like. So if you come to me and your goal is weight loss, but for example, you are super stressed out, not sleeping well, not eating great, I'm not going to start you in a caloric deficit right away, because your body is not going to respond well to that. So if you are already stressed out, you're not sleeping well, if you're active on top of that, say if you have a super active job, that just means that your body is going to be in a lot of stress. And as we can see here, stress levels are a factor of TDEE. The more stressed that we are, the more food that we need, because your body is relying on food sources for energy because it is spending a lot of time in high stress states. So in order to get into an optimal state of well-being before we can do something like a caloric deficit or even a bulk, where we're putting your body into a little bit of stress, we want to make sure that everything else is not stressed out first before we put even more stress on your body. So that's just like one example of why TDEE is important and why I need to know kind of all of these factors first before we look at changing your diet and moving into certain nutrition phases. So there is a time and a place for different nutrition phases, but the goal is to be able to stay in maintenance for the longest period of time. So that's the takeaway of coaching. So even though I might take you through diet phases in order to reach like a certain goal or a certain body percentage or something like that, when you leave coaching, you should be able to know how to stay in maintenance. So whether that's tracking to ensure that you're staying in maintenance or eating more mindfully, and having those kind of bodily cues to stay in maintenance, that's what we actually want, so that you can live the best quality of life that you can live. And that's going to be at maintenance level. Bulk phases and cut phases should actually only be between 4 to 6 months at a time. It depends on how far into a cut. Like, so for example, if I had a client who was only in a 10% deficit, they might be able to do a longer cut than somebody who's in like a 20% deficit, depending on the person. But they should only be for about 4 to 6 months at a time. And you want to be in maintenance after the fact for about the same period of time before you go back into a nutrition phase. So being in a deficit or being in a bulk aren't meant to be for long phases of time, and they're not meant to go on until you reach your goal. They're only meant for short periods of time because they cause stress on your body, and we don't want to put too much stress on your body at one time. So when we are in a cut, then we continue to track all of these factors, making sure that you are continuing to be in a state of well-being, in a good state of health, so that we can continue to further your caloric deficit or continue on for longer periods of time, so long as all of these factors are still in check. So the benefits of maintenance, so we can see that all of these things here are the benefits of maintenance. So maximal energy daily, optimally functioning metabolism. It promotes healthy and optimal production of hormones, easier to make gains in the gym compared to dieting phases. There's lesser or minimal impact when eating out and enjoying fun foods. It's easier to include the foods that you love. There's less stress, anxiety, mood swings compared to dieting phases. It promotes healthy menstrual cycles and fertility in women. There's minimal to no cravings. There's no hunger. Removes the physical stress on the body that comes with calorie restriction. It increases the success of intuitive eating, so many can stop tracking food altogether when they understand maintenance successfully. So this is the goal right here. And that's why tracking macros or tracking calories can be super beneficial. And that's why I promote it here at JL Fit Life, because it's an education tool. It's not meant to do, I don't want you to track for the rest of your life. I want you to be educated on your food choices and how much that you need and what eating in moderation looks like, so that you can leave my coaching service knowing what all of these things are and be able to stay in maintenance at your goal weight and actually enjoy life while staying there and while maintaining the body of your dreams. So that's why I came on to talk about TDEE and its importance. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to comment on the video, or you can even send me a direct message. But yeah, I hope that was helpful. So I will see you next time.